Hey folks, hope that you're well. As always, welcome to the Rivian Stories podcast and our first ever interview. Really excited to be joined today by Laycee, aka Miss GoElectric. Laycee was born and raised in Michigan. I seem to think that she entered into the auto industry at the age of 3 is what I'm going with right now. Laycee spent the last decade, at least, specializing in automotive marketing and product launches. Day to day, Laycee trains people from manufacturer employees to dealers to owners on new auto models. And I think that she's an EV owner. Maybe I saw a Tesla Model S. I'm super encouraged and thankful that you're here. I mean, especially just having a team player for my first ever interview, and you've made me feel very welcome. And so I hope that you feel welcome too. Is there any other sort of interesting bio things that we need to catch on with you? And did you really enter the auto industry at age 3? Or any other kind of color you want to throw on that?
Although it would not be surprising being from the state of Michigan,
Exactly.
I did not enter the industry at the age of 3. I actually went to school for broadcasting and did sports reporting for a little bit after school and found that, the TV industry has changed so much so that I took a different path. And I actually got into automotive by working for one of the big 3 car companies as a product specialist at their auto shows. So my role was to, educate the public as a narrator, tell people exactly what the new offerings are. And as a whole, I fell in love with the automotive industry because, if someone like me, I had no idea and I didn't have any experience with automotive. It was just like, oh yeah, when I buy a car, I go to the dealer. It opened my eyes so much to how big this industry really is. And over the years, I've, worked on experiential marketing campaigns. So whenever a new automaker has a new product, they would reach out to me and say, we need you as the boots on the ground to educate consumers at public events to basically showcase the vehicle, explain all the features. So every little detail inside the vehicle, technical pieces of, how things work from, combustion engines to now the more popular EV powertrains. And so I've gotten to a point in my career where I was the one training the dealers and the automotive manufacturer employees on their new products, also the industry trends, brands as a whole, what their messaging is, not only from a marketing standpoint, but what their goal is for, the demographic and everything. So it's been a long journey and it's opened my eyes to a lot of things in this industry, especially working side by side with dealer groups. It's a very interesting industry that I think a lot of people don't understand. So being that I have a pretty well-rounded understanding of how it all works, I felt obligated to make my voice heard because I understand it so well. And so I knew the implications of what this bill could bring. So that's kind of the whole reason why I am speaking out in particular. And like you had mentioned, Tesla owners. So this directly affects me as a consumer in Michigan. And I would hate to see this state lose its standing as a respected and innovative industry for the car business, because that is what we're known for. So I really would want to be more proactive in trying to lead it in the right direction, in my opinion.
No, I love it. And just to kind of continue on where you were heading or steering the conversation there, you caught my attention on Reddit, of all places, of course, right? With the headline, Michiganders, we need to fight back. First step, call your senators, please share. And of course, I'm on there with Rivian Stories, just trying to keep up on the latest stuff with Rivian. And so I did cover this story quickly last week in episode 3. And it's the story, as you said, of this Michigan House Bill 6233, I think it is, was passed sometime last week by the House and by quite a bit. It was 60-something to 30-something, if off the top of my head. And basically all I reported last week was that it seeks to, honestly, just bottom line, shut down the sales of Tesla and Rivian or any other direct-to-consumer sales of autos in Michigan. And I'd kind of heard maybe about this in the past from some other state, or kind of like from following Tesla, knew that there's some states that it's rocky, and a little bit from Rivian. And then I'm like, when I read your post, I thought like, what is going on here? And maybe we can just dive into it a little bit deeper. And I'm sure that none of us need like a PhD understanding of this, because it might take that much time to understand the power and the money and the politics and all that stuff that's at play. And so I guess sent you just a message on Reddit and said, would you be willing to come on? And you're such a good sport to do that. And so really the first question I have is just, can you sum up the bill? And if possible, could it be like to where my 8th grader could understand it? Just sum up where the bill is now and kind of the implications of it.
Yeah, sure. So to kind of take it back a step, actually, for people to understand that this all pretty much started in October of 2014, when the governor at the time, Rick Snyder, was the governor. He actually passed a bill that blocked direct sale and service in the state. So in 2016, Tesla went to court and basically fought this bill all the way to the Supreme Court. And just this January is when they had made a concession. So the reason why it's coming up now, even though we've seen many, many years that there hasn't been news of it, is because they've been fighting for many years to be able to sell and service here in Michigan. So it ended up going to the Supreme Court, and what happened was they made concessions so that Tesla could basically create a loophole so that they could still operate in the state by creating a subsidiary. So technically, Tesla Michigan is the one that runs the service center here that just opened up this summer in Clarkston, Michigan. Okay. So us Tesla owners are really excited. We finally don't have to go to Chicago, in my case, or Ohio to have any service done. And granted, EVs have less maintenance, which is, one of the main reasons why certain people end up choosing to buy one. And so for us, we were really excited because it wasn't too far from where we live, so that now we can get service out of them. And mostly the Rangers, they do tackle a lot of the smaller issues, but if you have body damage or anything that you need to have full replacement for, you need a service center. And you can go to third-party operators, but the thing is that, electric vehicles aren't as widespread here. They're only about 2% of sales in the whole United States. So the entrepreneurs that create these independent shops haven't quite sprung up yet. So there's very limited availability for service options. And so it was really exciting when they created this loophole. And obviously the many EV automakers that had announced since had claimed they were going to go for this similar direct sales and service model. So this bill amendment to that Motor Vehicle Franchise Act was introduced in order to basically eliminate not only people after Tesla coming in to do direct sales and service, but in this newly revised amendment that just passed in the House, it actually also struck Tesla from the provision. So now Tesla is not going to be able to have service in Michigan if this passes in the Senate and then gets signed off by the governor. And the newer EV automakers will be prevented from starting any retail sales operations here or service. So it completely blocks out those new EV automakers and Tesla's service. So it's a pretty big deal for people who are current EV owners of obviously Tesla models, but anyone that has a pre-order for, the Rivian R1T or R1S. So it's something that we really have to fight because it's going to stifle innovation. It's also tragic for a company like Rivian because they have over 800 employees, and in Michigan, a huge presence in Plymouth. So it would just be tragic for a company where their employees couldn't even service the vehicles that they buy from their employer
It
or
really
lease from their employer here.
it really is unbelievable that Rivian has really embraced the legacy auto industry to move headquarters there, because we know they have a few offices in California. Of course, their plant's right up the road from me in Illinois, but home base. They're trying to really embrace uh, the great, strong tradition backbone of what American auto industry is in Michigan. And then to have this, it's like, whoa. So that brings me to my second question. And thank you for summing it up. And the backstory is important and interesting, going back to 2014. Crazy, right? And I did hear how basically that loophole was closed up and cut out very quickly, almost like a
Yeah.
surprise. So the
Mhm.
big question that I have, and I'm sure everyone does that's listening with me, is just why. Like, obviously, I've said it. It it's pretty clear that it has to involve some sort of protection or fear or money, power, politics. And I don't want to put you in a tough spot because I know that you're involved in the industry, and so I'm not asking you to say anything that you don't want to. But I guess I am also just saying, if you're or asking if you're willing to lay the truth out there for us in words again that my fourth grader could understand, as far as why. And I guess you don't have to name the players, but I just know that that's what everyone's thinking is why.
Yeah. So the main reason why is, I mean, you just have to follow the money.
Mm-hmm.
In Michigan, dealer groups and dealerships, that whole concept started in the state of Michigan. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very important to our economy. And in particular, the dealer groups, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but they make most of their money on parts and service.
Mm-hmm.
So the main reason as to why they're trying to shut down Tesla in particular for just their service operations that they have now, and also new vehicle sales from the other players like Rivian and Lucid and Lordstown and all those guys,
Mm-hmm.
is that they make, in the US, there's about 26% profit made on new vehicle sales, and there's about 25% profit that's made on used vehicles, but about 50% is parts and service.
Mm-hmm.
So that's their baby, and
Right.
they want to protect it at all costs. So, just for example, there's a dealer group that's by my house that has over 40 locations here in the state of Michigan, and they're pretty tightly clustered. So this bill causes more problems than just the fact that you can't directly sales and service as a new EV automaker. It also is not great for the automakers, to be frank, because they also relinquish certain control for having limitations on who dealers can sell their dealerships to, whether it's a family member
Mm.
or a cousin or a wife, or
Wow.
they can now, without any discretion, be able to monopolize the system. So these dealer groups have gotten so big so that, for example, the one I'm speaking of brought in $2.5 billion last year. Just
Mm.
one dealer group in the state of Michigan. That's a lot of money. So
Mm-hmm.
they have a lot of interest to be able to protect it. What's frustrating is that the representatives who introduced this bill and sponsored this bill and pushed it through is that they basically, their argument is consumers are better off with this amendment in place. And my argument is that not only is it bad because I can't get service on my Tesla,
Right.
but those new players, like, we do have a pre-order on the Rivian R1T, and I've already felt the pain of going through this with owning a Tesla. I really don't want to go through this again with another manufacturer, but I do want to support the EV business. And as you watched my previous video on this House Bill 6233, when it was initially introduced in the committee hearing at the end of September, I had stated that, this is a determining factor for me on whether or not I'm going to hold my reservation, because if I have to buy it out of state lines, and I also have to service out of state lines. Do I really want to go through that headache? So it's a consideration for sure. And his argument, one of the representatives' arguments to that was, well, they're the ones that would be choosing not to do business here through third-party franchisee dealers. So the point is you can buy an electric vehicle, for example, right now, the Chevy Bolt in Michigan, and not have this problem. But for someone who wants to be frank, we all kind of understand what GM's position has been on electric vehicles, and now they're finally taking a turn for the better, in my opinion. But they've made a lot of compliance cars, and the Bolt is great, but it's not a lifestyle vehicle like the Rivian R1T or R1S offers that fits that lifestyle I'm looking for, and just capacity overall of cargo and towing and all the versatility it offers. So that was kind of their argument, and mine has consistently stated that if you allow these other manufacturers to operate in a direct sales and service manner, it does open up the market for more competition, which is great for consumers, because then we have more options. And in a sense, you can say, like many other industries, the prices will go down for things. So, and more independent shops will open up. So it makes it a competitive marketplace, which is very good for consumers. So more of my stance here was that I'm fighting this for the consumer of Michigan, which is people like me. And I know there are a lot out there that aren't quite ready for the EV movement yet, but they're gonna be. So when is that gonna be for certain people? It's hard to tell, but why prevent them at this stage, especially now with the coronavirus? People are taking in consideration alternative options and really considering total cost of ownership when it comes to a vehicle purchase. And obviously total cost of ownership for EVs is significantly less for gas vehicles. So it's, an option we shouldn't be prevented from taking.
Yeah. Is the word option is the key word. So the person who sponsors this and the people behind it, if they say, quote, better for consumers is what you said, the reason why, I mean, it's just unbelievable. We're not shutting down dealerships. We're not asking. So if someone prefers buying from a franchise or a dealer, they can. We're not taking that off the table. No one's doing that. It's just another option. And so in typical big government fashion, like, oh no, we get to tell you what's best for you by limiting your options. It just makes no sense to me. And it makes no sense to everyone, including the people I'm sure who are there, because I don't really think that they're, that aloof to the truth. And it's just, to me, it seems, I guess the reaction just from the stands here, brand new to the situation, the word cowardice just comes to my mind, because it seems so obvious that there's just maybe not only fear, but they're just trying to delay the inevitable, because maybe they know that every day that goes past is just that much more money in the bank to where we can delay this change. Everyone knows it's coming, as far as the fact that, like, what's best for the consumer, the fact that I can go order a Rivian in 4 minutes or a Tesla in 6 minutes and get it to my door and get most of the maintenance done in my driveway, I mean, and that's just my option. If I don't trust that they're going to do good with service or anything, then I don't have to. I can always go to a dealer. But the point is that there's an option, and for them to take options off the table and say that it's best for a consumer, to me, is just baffling. And I grew up on the ball field to where I'm thankful for it in so many ways to grow up on the ball field. But, you kind of grow up knowing that great competition, you've got to welcome it and meet it head on, because that's the only way you get better. And it just seems to me that these big dealer groups, I guess is what it is, more so than manufacturers, more so than the big three. Because I think that I heard that when you spoke, there was also a representative from Ford and from Rivian and from who else? I mean, GM?
Yep. So the problem is, so the other side of this bill, that the main headline from this is that it prevents direct sales and service for new EV automakers. So yes, that's urgent and it's very important. But the other things in the bill that have been added, like I mentioned before, which allow the dealer groups to sell off their specific locations to family members and things like that. There are more lines in the bill that also are not good for the automakers. But the problem is that the automakers cannot speak out about this, because ultimately there will be retribution. There will be something that they can hold over their head and use against them, and they will do it. So the other side of this bill is that one part of it actually says that dealers don't have to invest in improvements unless another brand asks for the same. So it has to be on the same level playing field. But the problem is like the chicken and an egg. So like, I can't ask for you to make improvements to change the customer experience at the dealership or the buying experience for the customer because the other guy's not doing it. Well, that's a closed loop. So, so there's a lot of stuff in the bill like that too, which the automakers can't speak out against. So when I went in the end of September to speak on this, actually GM, a representative from there, said that they opposed the bill, but when the representatives tried to ask them questions about it, he basically was nervous to respond and answer why. He just was trying to say, like, I just oppose it. Leave me alone.
Unbelievable. Yep. Yeah, so, it is crazy. I was telling my wife about this morning. I was telling my wife, Julie, about this morning, and I gave her just the headline there. I didn't obviously go down the weeds to how it affects even the legacy automakers. It was just more so like they're trying to prevent Tesla and Rivian and any future electric car, any future direct to consumer sales from happening. And, my wife, being as wise and awesome as she is, she broke out what she thinks that Ron Swanson would say versus Leslie Knope, which is from the show Parks and Rec. And I know, Leslie, I ask, or rather, Laycee, I ask you if you've seen that show, and you said yes. And so her response, I think, is perfect. She basically just said, you'd have Leslie Knope here saying, we got to protect everyone who's ever been a part of this town. We really need to protect them. And then we'd have, Ron Swanson say, these people built a better way to do your business. So you either need to change and catch up, or you're just going to go out of business. I mean, so if someone's made a way just to sell a car online in 4 minutes and do service the way they can, then it just seems only fair to let them to welcome the competition. And that's a word that I would come back to besides options, is like competition. Obviously, we've always known is better for the consumer, for sure. And actually, I do have a quote that I wanted to read from you in the video. And you said this: residents of Michigan who want to buy the safest and most advanced autos should not be forced into leaving the state for sales and service. Customers should have a choice. If people prefer the franchise model, they will continue visiting franchise dealerships. Preventing healthy competition and the ability to choose the direct model is a massive disservice to each of your constituents. I wrote that all down. I read it because to me, I think that was about halfway through your speech, and I'm like, there it is. That's the two sentences that just is the truth, that when you say that to people, they're just going to have to hide in their seat and say, please don't ask me any other questions. I've got nowhere to run, because that is just the truth as plain as day. So to bring this forward, and these next few questions we can just kind of hit on lightly, because I think the meat of it is what we just talked about, the implications of the bill and why. And it passed the House. I'm looking at my notes here, 65-39. What stage are we at in the process for Senate intervention? Like, where's it at now? And this can just kind of be just the top headlines here, but where's it going to go now?
Sure. So the other day, it was actually brought to the Senate to review and vote on. And when the session started, they announced that immediately they were going to cut 3 bills from the session. And Bill 6233 was one of them. So as I understand it right now, just based on my experience, because back in September, when we went and spoke against it at the committee hearing, nothing happened. And so we thought it was dead there. And then all of a sudden it came back and reared its ugly head immediately. And over a day, it was passed. So as it stands right now, it was taken off of the schedule. And I'm not sure exactly if that means it's going to be put back on the schedule within the next week or so that they have until they go on vacation for the holiday for the rest of the year, or if it's going to come back next year. But as of right now, it looks like it's dead, but we'll see if it ends up coming back. We really just have to keep an eye on the schedule and be vigilant and try to keep track of if it pops back up on the schedule. So that's where it sits right now. It's kind of in a limbo. Unfortunately, it's not a concrete answer, but
no, that's fine.
We just have to keep our eyes out. So,
well, since it's not concrete, it kind of helps it be sneaky, of course. So in the meantime, what do Michigan residents need to do to fight this? And I know that the answer is that you can call a senator. I'm just going to put up a link that you shared in Reddit. We'll have this in the show notes so that if you're a Michigander, you can just call. But is there anything else that you think we need to do? And especially non-Michigan residents, is there anything else that we need to be aware of? Any kind of insights there? And if not, no big deal. I just thought I'd ask.
Well, luckily, this only affects a handful of states that have gone against the consumer choice. So like Texas is one of them. That's pretty well known that they don't allow any sales or service either for the direct model. But just be vigilant. And I would encourage people to follow on your social media, the local environmental clubs in your region, Sierra Club, things like this. These kinds of organizations, Plug in America, they're always keeping track. They have policy people which are always keeping track of the news about this particular topic. So, it's really an easy way for you to make sure that you can get involved is to be alert about it first by following groups like that. Also, call your senator. That's the biggest thing that you can do and express your opposition. And basically let them know that you want to support a Michigan-based company like Rivian and buy their products. And they are the most advanced and reliable vehicles that are coming out nowadays because they are electric vehicles. And this specifically blocks those new EV automakers. So let your voice be heard. It literally takes 2 minutes to call your senator. You might not do it often, or this might be your first time, but don't be nervous. Just, let it be known. They don't want to chat
with you all day. They just...
Right. They do want to hear your voice. And if they don't answer, leave a voicemail and email them and keep contact with them. But just be aware that stuff like this can pop up, and to be alert of anything that pops up, it's good to follow those types of channels that will keep you posted.
Yeah. Awesome. So my last question for you was how we can follow you. And I know that we can follow you in a couple places. I already know those, but I'm going to let you share that. But before, I kind of have another question that I wrote down at the beginning, which was, have you pre-ordered Rivian? You said that you have the truck. So yes. I guess to follow up that, can you tell us, did you get in the configurator? Are you the launch edition? And what color? Can you tell us?
So I actually did a video on this.
Oh, nice.
So for the people who don't know, I have a YouTube channel called Miss GoElectric. It's an EV advocacy channel. So I talk about a lot of things that are e-mobility. So not just cars, but electric scooters, mopeds, e-bikes, things of that nature. And I actually did, when the configurator launched for pre-order customers, I did a video on there, so you guys can check that out. But
Awesome.
I configured mine as I wanted the max battery pack. So I got the adventure package with the max battery pack, 400 mile plus range. And I did glacier white.
Nice.
And I did the smaller black wheels. So
very cool.
Little stormtrooper-esque going on there.
Absolutely.
That was my goal. I feel like you can't go wrong with white. So, and that's pretty much what I get on most of my cars. So yeah, I'm excited.
White is what I was leaning towards too, but with the SUV, because I have 3 kids and I coach 2 Little League baseball teams. And so our car is full. I needed every bit of that 7 seats and every bit of, covered shelter inside the cabin. And so the SUV I just absolutely love. And I thought that I was going to do white. And then I ended up doing El Cap Granite for now, because once upon a time, a couple of years ago, I photoshopped the R1S in kind of this gray blue sort of color. And that El Cap Granite almost has not quite as much blue as I had in my little rendition. And this kind of made its way through the Reddits and the interwebs. It's up everywhere, that picture that I did. And I'm like, that's pretty close to that ideal color that I wanted. I'm hoping that it has like a little bit of navy in there is what I'm saying. But
it's hard to tell on a computer screen. It'll be really cool to see them in person. I have seen a couple of them. I've seen the forest green and then the Rivian blue in person. Yep. And I really liked both of those, but I love white. I can't. Right.
Well,
it's like, as much as I lean, I always come back to white. It's just so clean and beautiful.
White is so safe. I mean, we can all imagine a car in white, and we're going to know what white is. But like you said, these other colors, it's kind of different. And I did see the green and the blue as well in person in normal. And I guess just as a little bit of Rivian talking point to people who love Rivian, the green, when I see it online, I'm like, it's fine. But in person, I was like, wow, this is awesome. This is a really good color. So much more depth and just very likable. Same thing with the blue. It's really blue, but in person, it looks great. So I don't necessarily think that we might be able to go wrong on any of the colors. These designers have really good taste inside and outside. But white is definitely a good choice.
I'm with you. I know it's kind of boring, but still.
Nope. It's good. It'll be great. Okay. So you mentioned Miss GoElectric on YouTube. Any other place that you want to tell us about?
Yeah. So youtube.com/Miss GoElectric. So it has an easy way to find the channel URL. I'm also on Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, and Instagram. I would say I'm most responsive on Twitter, and then getting pretty active. Actually, Reddit is new to me, which is really exciting. It's
me too.
Its own little world, and I really like it. So I hope to be more engaged on that as well. So
all of those, Miss GoElectric is your handle, right?
That's right.
For all those other awesome, very cool. Well, hey, I'm so grateful that you're here. The last thing I would say, just on a personal note, is if anyone is listening to this and thinks they have a good argument for the other side, why this is good, come on in here. We'll talk. I'd love to hear it. So I'll just invite that. And in the meantime, I will follow along with you, Laycee, and you can keep us informed. Definitely don't hesitate to give me any kind of information. And then I'll just say this to end with. Thank you to everyone who stuck through us through this entire show and listened with us. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.